Good morning. Once again, welcome to The Morning Touch. I'm Darwin Campbell. The Morning Touch is brought to you by the Chaplaincy for the Homeless and the FSBC in Glendale. I hope, trust, and pray that you've learned a lot about this word, L-O-S-T, left out of salvation's talk, because lost is lost. Today, we're going to kind of sum it all up with respect to being lost. You see, there are consequences to being lost. One of the greatest consequences is what happens in judgment. But before the judgment, one of the greatest consequences of being lost are what happens to you as you live your life lost. A lot of you are living life lost, and it has had an effect on everything that makes you who you are. So we're going to talk a little bit about the consequences of being lost in this life. And then we'll sum it up about what it means being lost overall. First of all, one of the consequences of being lost is that we're helpless. You know, when you think about in the first part of Luke 15, the sheep that wandered away into darkness and danger. That sheep was lost. That sheep was under duress and distress. When you wander away from the flock of God, it puts you in a state of hopeless distress. So lost means being in a state of hopeless distress. Yes, you're living your life. You may be eating and drinking and having a good time. But in reality, spiritually, you are under distress. When the rains and the floods and the winds blow on your life, you have no answers. You might try alcohol, you might try drugs, you might try anything you can to soothe the pain that you're under. Because one of the things of being lost, one of the consequences of being lost is helpless distress. That when the stresses of life happen, when the troubles of life come, you have no answers, and you are in such distress and duress because you just can't handle it. I don't know how many people have told me they don't have the Lord, they're not in church, they're not faithful, and the next thing I know, we look up and they're doing something to destroy their psyche, to destroy their psychology, to destroy their makeup. One of the consequences of being lost is distress. Number two, another consequence of being lost, like the coin or idleness, is the fact that you don't feel like you have much value. As you sit there behind that spiritual couch, lost, you have no value. You may say, I'm a nickel, but I have no value because no one can spend me. You may say, I'm a spiritual dollar, but you have no value. You're behind that spiritual couch. No one can spend you. No one can see you. No one hears you. And oftentimes, those people who are that idle coin, that idle person who cuts himself off and isolates himself, that person feels like they have no purpose. That person is lost because they live their lives separate and apart from others, cut off from the world, dormant from all that's going on around them. They walk right past opportunities to make their lives happier, to make their lives fuller, to make their lives full of joy and happiness. They walk right past it because they're so cut off and so isolated. So not only are the consequences of being lost, you put yourself in a helpless distress like the sheep that's lost or gone astray. You are like that coin behind the couch. You are idle, and you have no purpose, and you have no value. Number three, being lost can be a degradation. And you say, what are you trying to say? Here we found the prodigal son, a clean-cut young man, well-dressed, well cared for, socially set, who took his money and spent it all, lost his self-respect, lost his wealth, lost his friends, lost his virtues, lost his character, My friends, the consequence of being lost is that you just lose a lot of what makes you what God made you. You lose a lot of what makes you what God made you. If you lose your character and you lose your virtues, that's degradation. If you lose your values and you lose your self-respect, you're not the person you used to be. I know I've known people, and they say, you know, his grandmother raised him better. Or his mom and dad put more time and money into him than that. They'll say, he knows better, she knows better. I don't understand how they could have done that. It's because they're lost. The consequences of being lost are like that of the prodigal son. When you're without God, when you're without Jesus Christ, you not only set yourself up for distress and the loss of self-esteem and the loss of the understanding of life around you, you also lose some of the most important characters that God instilled in you. That is self-respect, Christian characters, virtues, and values. Number 3. Number 4, not only are you distressed and useless and degraded, but you are also not full of joy. Because let me tell you, the first 3, you lose all your joy. People who are lost, who don't know God, who don't have a relationship with Jesus Christ, they are some of the most joyless people I know. They don't know what happiness is. They don't know what a fulfilling life is. They often ask me, well, you know, you don't have as much money as me. Why are you so happy? Or you don't have the job or making the money that I'm making. Why are you so happy? Or you're not driving the car or living in the house that I'm living. Why are you so happy? The difference is I'm saved and you're lost. My salvation teaches me. My relationship with Jesus Christ and God teaches me to be humble, teaches me to be content, teaches me to love where I am. The person that's lost does not understand why children of God can be so happy in their distress, or can be so happy in their challenges, or can be so happy during their medical illnesses, or can be so humble in their situations, or content with life. It's because we know the difference between being saved and lost. We know the difference between being promised and outside of the promise. My friends, there are consequences to being lost. And one of those consequences is that you lose your joy. You lose your joy, your true happiness, your true peace. It's all out the window. I've known several people who've made lots of money commit suicide. I've known them. They committed suicide. You say, why would they commit suicide with all of that money? Why? They should have been happy. But yet they're not here. I'm still here. What is it between me and them? The difference between me and them is the fact that one was saved, one was lost. One did not know Jesus. One did not know God. One did not have a relationship. So all of that money could not make them happy. My friends, there's something to be said about salvation. There's something to be said about being part of salvation talk. There's something to be said about Jesus dropping everything to come and look for you because he knows the consequences that you're going through right now. Because you're lost, you're away from him, you don't have a relationship with him, and you are suffering distress. You are suffering the lack of value and uselessness. You are suffering degradation as Satan tears you apart limb from limb, breaks you down, takes away your self-respect. You are suffering from joylessness. You're not happy. You don't have any peace. That's what happens when you're lost, my friends. You need to understand. Jesus is looking for you, and I'm looking for you because I want you to have the joy. I want you to know this salvation. I want you to have this peace. That's why we preach so hard. That's why we teach so hard and so long. That's why we labor day after day to put the message of the morning touch before you, because we want you to understand that this being saved and knowing Jesus is a very real experience that you need to know so that you can come out of your lostness, so that you can know that salvation has been made available to you right here and right now. I don't want you alone. I don't want you living a miserable life, because that's part of the consequences of being lost. Lost is lost, and it leaves you alone, unpopular, and miserable. Nobody wants to be around you in your joylessness. It's time you come to know Jesus so that you can be truly happy, and so that you can be truly joyful and truly at peace. The Lord is calling you. Jesus is calling you. What will your answer be? The Morning Touch is brought to you by the Chaplaincy for the Homeless and the FSBC in Glendale. We hope, trust, and pray that this series on the lost has opened your eyes and caused you to want to develop and have that true relationship with God. Come out of your lostness into salvation. Come to know Jesus. He loves you so, and he calls you. See you next time on The Morning Touch.